Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. I'd like to apologize that this episode was a little late. I actually got a little distracted yesterday, and I usually record the night before, but everything just kind of came a little undone. Sorry about that. Won't happen again. I'm gonna try and get back on my week ahead of schedule. But yeah. So today we are going to be talking about a new streaming series. It's the first thing I've ever watched on Peacock. First time I've ever had reason to. It's called The Girl in the Woods, and it is probably one of the more interesting horror things that have come out in the last few years. Although it's from the same people who did Crypt TV, so that's fair. This is also going to be a sort of ish review of Crypt TV as a whole. Don't worry, I'm mostly doing it for context because I think. So for those of you who don't know, The Girl in the Woods series, the series I'm reviewing, is actually based on two short films that are part of a extended universe of short films created by a group called Crypt TV on YouTube and Facebook to a certain extent. I really like their stuff, and I'm partially going to be reviewing this as its own series and partially comparing it to the two shorts it originates from and how they've adapted the story for a full-length series. Don't worry, if you don't have any knowledge, I'll be filling in the details. So, let's get started first with some background on Crypt TV. Crypt TV is a very interesting thing. They've been releasing videos since 2015, and most of it's on YouTube and Facebook. It's really cool. They do a lot of unique horror monsters. So their big thing is that they have a large set of short horror films. They're mainly known for focusing on scares and tight contained plots as well as practical effects, which they're basically the masters of these days. Like, these are some of the best practical monster effects you will ever see. They're really, really good. And they've always just been one of these, background groups. They have things like Burdeo, the Birch, Happy Sunny Family Cult, and then you had The Door in the Woods and The Girl in the Woods, which are two short films. They also have The Look-See, which is a really good series as well. Crypt TV's short films are like really short films. These things are like 10, 15 minutes, and you get the supercut. The individual episodes are a few minutes long. They're very, very short. But they really do focus in on just pure terror. God, they're amazing. Really is cool. But one of the interesting things about them is they've been building a slowly expanding universe. They have Easter eggs that pop up between all their films to make it very clear that these films are all taking place in the same universe. In fact, several characters will pop up from other franchises in independent films. And there's even a book that appears in a lot of different films. It's basically the Necronomicon of their world, full of all the information on the monsters, dark rituals, and it seems to drive people around into madness and death. So, plenty of happy family fun. And even the last blatantly supernatural series like the Sunny Family Cult were directly influenced by this murdery book. So it's very interesting. Anyway, I've actually really liked the series for a while. I've been watching them for about the last year or so. I actually got recommended by Game Theory. I watched one of their theories on the Look-See, and I was like, "Ooh, this stuff looks interesting. Might as well check it out." So yeah, I've been watching it. All in all, I think they're probably one of the more interesting horror groups, and I'm glad they got a full-length TV show. Their monster effects are still on point, and they're really good at storytelling, actually. One of the interesting things about, the Look-See, which was the first series I saw, is that there's not a lot of dialogue, at all. At all. Like, you could probably put all the actual words that are spoken in the entire series on 1 or 2 pages, which is ridiculously impressive. This is all the stories conveyed through a handful of creepy notes left by the monster and the emotional reactions of the characters without words, which is so cool. I'm all behind that. Some of my favorite scenes in movies are just purely emotional visual storytelling. I'm all behind that. It's one of my favorite things. For example, my favorite movie, and this will probably both not surprise anyone and also like maybe surprise you, is How to Train Your Dragon, the DreamWorks movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. I will never get tired of that movie. I could basically repeat line for line. I saw it when it was released in theaters as a kid, and I've just always loved it. And my favorite whole scene is the silent forbidden friendship scene in it. And like the second I saw that, I just completely got behind wordless scenes in movies. Because if you can tell a story without words, you don't need exposition. Exposition is a crutch. Now, it's a crutch that is useful for certain types of storytelling, but when you can just tell an entire story without a single word, it's really cool. Now, this new series, The Girl in the Woods, is not silent storytelling. In fact, even the story it was based on wasn't silent storytelling. It had a lot of dialogue in it. But Crypt TV is really good at minimalistic dialogue. And it was something I wanted to point out as part of their other projects. You can find basically all their videos for free online. So you essentially have no reason not to go check them out. Okay? They're short, they're good, they're creepy. You know, it's coming to me right now that I've done a lot of horror reviews. Like, I'm starting to go toward the horror stuff, because I have some other stuff planned for the future too. I'm going to be doing some scary reviews after Halloween, and I apologize for that. Halloween just had a lot of movie releases, and a lot of other things I already had planned to review, and it just kind of fell apart. Next year, I'm going to be setting aside Halloween for some scary reviews, because you guys deserve some scary good stuff. But, until next year, let's focus on this. So, let's get to this. The first two short stories by Crypt TV was about a mysterious door in the woods. Obviously, it's called The Door in the Woods. I'm still talking about the Crypt TV show, for those of you who are a little confused. And this story had the daughter of this, well, essentially, they never I say it's a cult, but it's basically a cult, who protect humanity from the monsters that come from behind the door. Basically, we find out that most of the monsters in the series were created either through blood rituals, contact with a strange meteorite, or they came from the door itself. And all the monsters are leaking in from the plains of torment. And this cult guarded the door. Now, in the movie, the idiot kids of the little commune or the cult go there because they were, they also wants to be over here. And it's unguarded, which is really dumb. And one of them spills blood in the locks, and they accidentally chant a nursery rhyme that, go figure, happens to be the unlocking mechanism when combined with the blood of humanity. So, guess what happens? They break all the chains, because they broke the magic seal, and a monster called the Brute comes out and slaughters everyone. The cult leader managed to escape with the main character. What's her name again? Carrie. That's Carrie. I always forget. And so she... and so the dad decides to use her as a sacrifice to lure the Brute back into the door. It doesn't work. The Brute kills him. Carrie manages to close the door on it, but it rips her arm off in the process. She's rescued by a member of the cult who survived alongside her, the only other survivor. And he tells her about, the monsters and how they can protect themselves, and their cult was doing a really important job, and they were actually guardians of the world. And so he trains her, but then he finds out that she was responsible, but she can't bring herself to, she was an idiot kid. She gets a robot arm, with a magic dagger. She goes to open the door again. She wants to kill the Brute for vengeance, but she fails. The Brute goes out there, and she becomes basically the franchise's Van Helsing. That's basically all you need to know. That's the Girl in the Wood and the Door in the Wood. It's a pretty simple thing, mostly about gory kills with a really cool Brute. The makeup effects on that were just amazing. Like, seriously, go watch Crypt TV stuff. Their monsters are genuinely terrifying. Love it. Anyway, Peacock picked up the franchise, the premise of that as basically a TV show. I'm guessing the idea is they can end up franchising this out into reimagined versions of Crypt TV's other stuff. I would definitely pay to see. I would definitely probably hook up on Peacock more frequently if I was going to get a look-see series, like a proper look-see series. That would deal with some great grief. But I'm not here to talk about the look-see. Not here to talk about look-see. Anyway, so now we're going to enter the full review for Girl in the Woods, or at least the initial non-spoiler review. So, The Girl in the Woods starts with Carrie, who, at the start of the film, there's a door, it's being bashed open, and Carrie's standing there. Several of the other cult members are dead on the ground, and she's trying to keep something in, and she runs away. We don't really figure out what happens until later on, so I'm just going to say that she ended up having a crisis of faith and is trying to escape the cult, but in the process, she ended up laying some stuff out, and while trying to escape, she realizes the monsters are going to be attacking the nearby town, so she decides to intervene. In the process, she meets two kids named Tasha and Nolan. The town itself is also going through a problem. Tasha's father works for the mining company, but Nolan's family is kind of ostracized by the rest of the town because a lot of the people in the town work for the mining company, but it was revealed they were dumping toxic chemicals into the waste, and Nolan's mother, who's a lawyer, decided to sue them and won, and now she's pushing to have the mine shut down altogether, which, the mining company is a horrible company for, poisoning the town. I would quite frankly argue that they deserve what's coming to them. But at the same time, a lot of the town people aren't really concerned so much with the, practices of the shady company, so much as the fact that, most of the town will soon be jobless. One of the things I will get off right at the bat, though, with the human story, because that's definitely the thing. It's a human conflict interfering with dealing with the monsters, part of that. Also, the cults hunting Carrie, because they're, portrayed less as a group of protectors against the door, and yes, they are protectors against the door, but they're very clearly a cult. I'll get into that later, but... So, I do really like the town's central issue of the whole, poison water, ecological protection versus, hey, we're going to lose all our jobs. I know when you hear that, you immediately think, oh, so the miners are kind of a-holes. Like, yes, but they're human a-holes. They do a lot to try and humanize the town. And Tasha comes off with a lot more conflicted, as does Nolan. They're not really, they don't really have a part or a side on either of these, but their parents do. And that's what's causing the conflict. Not necessarily that they feel specifically about either of these issues at the moment, even though they might feel that way, but the conflict is caused because their parents are basically tearing them apart, and they're frustrated by it. And I think that's interesting. In addition, look, I'm going to side with Nolan's parents because, yeah, the mining company is really shitty, and you find out their practices are kind of horrid. Especially once you get to a certain part later on where they decide, where their mining practices, some shady aspects of how they operate are very clearly revealed as to be a regular part of the culture there. And it's like, yeah, they were totally doing illegal stuff like this all the time. And other people working there definitely contributed to it. So you feel less guilty about them losing their jobs, honestly. Like, I get there's some people who will fall on their side, some people will fall on the other side. I personally thought the miners were just kind of a-holes. And I think the mining company got what was coming to it. I think Noel's mom was 100% right there. That's just my take. I can see people with different worldviews doing it the other way. So, But it is an interesting social issue to hang around the town, which keeps them divided and causes conflict while the main cast tries to deal with the monsters and something spoilery that happens midway through. So I really like that. I think it's a good setup, and I think it's actually nuanced enough that it's not as black and white. Because I really dislike when there's where they try to set up a situation like this, but there's one side that's so clearly in the right. Like there's just no justification for the other side, the super greedy corporation that keeps experimenting on whatever the supernatural element is, regardless of the consequences. It's like, no, they're already rich and powerful. They just want to be more rich and powerful. But the ecological group was like, no, this stuff might be dangerous. It's like, yeah, of course it's dangerous. It's monster juice. The main cast has to stop them. It's like, no. Both sides have reasons for what they do, and neither of them is 100% in the right. And I agree with the mom to a very great extent. But there are some genuine things there. I found way more interesting in the town. I don't know. I was actually genuinely invested in the town's fate, which I'm not used to in a horror series. It just goes to show that even though TV doesn't have as much dialogue in some of their sorts, they are capable of writing really good dialogue. Not sure who wrote this actually. Oh well, I'll have to look it up later. Anyway, let's see what else. So you have your main cast. Stephanie Scott is playing Carrie. She does a good job. Really comes across as, like, really tormented in this one. Like, pre-arm ripoff tormented. Sophie Bryant is playing Tasha, and Misha, oh gods, I cannot pronounce that last name, Osherovich, is playing Nolan. So they're the main cast. Carrie is, an escaped cult member who's trying to run away. Apparently her mom also ran away from the cult. So she's kind of in, like, the sword of Damocles, even though her father's the leader. And he's really creepy and controlling. I mean, obviously he's a cult leader. Tasha is, like I want to get away from this town teenage girl, but she turns out that she's, like, not actually trying as hard to get away from the town. So maybe she does kind of like it there. Misha is really interesting. He's kind of, like, gender confused, which is a nice plotline for him. He's trying to find his own sexual identity, which is pretty cool. I really like his character. He's just a fun best friend. And yeah. So all in all, they're really interesting. The one thing I do have to say, this is definitely better though than the series, because the town wasn't originally a part of the series, so I can't really judge how Tasha and Nolan are different, because Carrie was kind of a loner in the original shorts. But you see definite improvement to the shorts that the cult is much, much more ambiguous in their alignment. See, in the short, the cult seemed to be, a little backwards. They didn't have that much technology or anything like that. But they weren't, like, evil. They were just, like, a bunch of people who lived more in nature and had a bit more natural clothes. But they were, like, religious, but not, like, fanatical. The dad's last play to get, the door was clearly something that had been locked up for generations, and they were just tasked with guarding it, but they'd seen enough stuff, like the torment shards, that they knew that this thing was real. Like, we know the magic's real. We've seen some remnants of what happened last time that are still tainting our world, so we gotta keep this thing closed. And the dad only tried to use Carrie as a distraction because everyone else was dead, and he thought he was basically making a final sacrifice, and they had no other choice. And even when he did it, he was, like, crying and begging her to forgive him. So, the dad was much more sympathetic. In the shorts, Carrie was a lot more reckless and just more childish. She was a kid when this all happened. Meanwhile, she's a full-on teenager at this point. And the cult was more, we're doing a good thing even if we seem a little weird. In this one, they're a full-on cult. Like, they brainwash the kid from an early age to train them that sacrifice is peace and love, and they should be willing to throw themselves into the door to guard it from the world, even if they mean they literally die in the process, because sacrifice is all that they're meant to be. The dad is this really manipulative a-hole who's constantly trying to screw with Carrie's head. Her one other guardian, the one other guy who's kind of her equal. So basically in this one, Carrie was trained as a guardian for the door. Stuff happened, and the other guardian has to go after her. And the other guy is very sympathetic, but he's like, I have to bring you back, Carrie, I have to. And they're really portrayed as a cult, which is good. Like, cults are kind of shitty, but okay, that's a gross understatement right there. I can just hear people being upset. Cults are horrid. The fanaticism for anything is horrid, but, especially that level. But yeah, they are very much drink the Kool-Aid cult. Which is nice, because because they are still doing something that needs to be done. It's made very clear that without what they're doing, monsters would be pouring into our world. Like, Carrie let damage their defenses just a little bit, and lots of people got hurt. Several people died. And that was the tiniest screw up. Imagine if they weren't there for it. It's like, yeah, they're doing something that needs to be done, but that doesn't make them good people. Just because they're doing a good thing does not mean they're doing it with, good intentions or even well. Like, they come across as super isolationists, looking down on the ignorant sheep of the outside world who live complacent lives while they sacrifice for it. They're perfectly willing to kill other people who find out about it. It's like, we've made sacrifices for years. You can make a few, I'm guessing. They come across as very bitter and angry, but also very, we are superior to them. because of our lifestyle things. And everyone in the town knows about the cult out there. And when Carrie comes around, most of the people there are very like, oh, God, you ran away from them? Don't worry, we'll help you. Like, Tasha literally finds her in the store, realizes she's a runaway, helps her escape the other guy who's chasing her. And her dad is like, oh, she's a runaway from the cult? Oh, yeah, she can stay here for a few days while she figures out what to do. Definitely. They're really creepy. They don't like technology. I hear they do all these horrible things to their kids. And yeah, the stuff she went through as a child was really horrid. And she wasn't exactly a saint in it either. So, I gotta admit, it's pretty impressive. I like that they made it more, not that I like the cult, I just like they made everything slightly more morally ambiguous. Like what they did with the town. They flip your expectation on your head, so you feel more divided even as you have to feel united to fight the monsters. And the cult basically becomes as big a threat, if not a bigger one, than the monsters in certain ways. Because the monsters can at least be sealed back up again, at least temporarily. But the cult's going to be around for a while, and they have a lot of manpower and a lot of hate. So, they're going to be a problem. So yeah, I like that all. That's basically all I can give away without spoiling. I will say I really like what they did at the ending. Because, minor spoiler, we are getting a season 2. And I really like the direction they took it. It's very interesting. Definitely going to be watching this season 2 if it gets season 2. Cool for it. Anyway, I think that's all for our spoiler-free section. If you're interested in checking this out, you can find a link in the description. For everyone else, we're moving on. So, let me just start with a spoiler. So, basically what happened was, in order to help prevent monsters from escaping the door, they don't just have external defenses in this series. As opposed to the web short, they have internal defenses as well. They send a member of their cult in there with, like, the Necronomicon. I forget what they call it exactly in this series. And inside a small bunker, hand crank generators, all that stuff. And the person they send in there is a guardian. And the guardian essentially stays there for years, or as long as they can survive, and kills any monsters that go fight them. If they're severely injured, they have a button to push in emergencies only. The only time she pushes in when she loses an arm. Yeah, Carrie was in there. Apparently it's a great honor in their village to get selected. And Carrie even betrayed another friend of hers, Sarah, and by playing a dirty trick during a final, who will be worthy thing. They've been trained all their lives. They were kind of like lovers. They even loved each other and maybe wanted to have a family someday. But, didn't really work out. So, yeah. Anyway, she betrayed her, very much betrayed her, so she feels, personally attacked by that. She lost her best friend, but she earned the respect. Except the respect was getting tossed into a monster-filled hellscape for years. Carrie went there for a few months, I think, for the first round, and she got her arm turned off. She got a sort of prosthetic that detects tensing in the muscles to clench the hand, and a hidden assassin's blade in the wrist, which is really cool. I like the assassin's blade. I'm glad they carried that over from the short films. But guess what happens immediately after she's ready to fight again? She gets thrown in there, and this time it's for years. And I will give them this. The scenes of her slowly losing herself in there. She just stays in there for years. She's in the middle of a dark, sandy void, surrounded by, in a cabin that's been reinforced that she has a hand crank for. She has to constantly be waking up even when she goes to sleep. Her only company is a red alarm that goes off whenever the monsters get near the door. And then she has to go fight them. The rest of her time is spent charcoal drawing to try and remember what human faces look like, because it's been so long. And, reading the monster tome so that she can know how to kill all the stuff that's going to, try and break out the door. And it is disturbing, some of the scenes we have with her, watching as she just slowly, first she's just drawing people she knows. And slowly over time, their features get less and less distinct. She forgets what a human face looks like. And she's just drawing this empty circle because she just cannot remember. She's been there for so long, all alone, with nothing but monsters for company. The stress, the isolation, it just crushes her. And the things there take advantage of it. One of them, a hypnotist or something like it, or something that was aiding it. It's a monster that can manipulate your mind, that kind of thing. It convinces the now very maddened Carrie that she should escape. This is all wrong. And so she breaks out, but one of the monsters does too, and it opens up a portal in the mines. That's the main plot of the series, is that the mine is filled with an ore that's slowly burrowing. It's called Demon's Bone. It's different from the Fragments of Torment. See, in the show, the Fragments of Torment were basically filled with this purple glowing energy, but in this one, the Demon's Bone has like maggots in the bone, and they infect hosts and turn them into monsters. Or the bone itself also causes humans to obsess over it if they don't know what they're looking at, because it looks like gold. The miners find it, actually, and think it's actual gold. And even though it's in a no mine zone, because this area is dangerous, and we shouldn't be mining here, guess what? A few of the people there are like, hey, we can just keep it off the books, we mine all this gold, and we're all rich. Doesn't matter if we lose our jobs next week. And of course, it starts mentally corrupting them. And Tasha's father is like the head miner who ends up letting it slide, and he has to be like restrained at one point. It is funny, though. He does come across as very nice, whereas the mom comes across as a lot more artificial, like forcing her son to like bring out these protest signs and make it look like he's okay with it. So, yeah. I do like, though, that there's... Okay, so Misha Osheritz, the guy who plays Nolan. So he ends up turning into a monster because one of the maggots infects him at one point. And when it's infecting him and he's going a little crazy, he has like a crisis of identity over what he's been doing, like, seeing himself as trans. And he goes to advice for his dad. His dad's like, be a man. And, it sparks that whole rage. He turns into this show's version of the Brute. Makeup effects for that still look great. But the mom talks to her, gets home. He's like, hey, what's going on upstairs? Like, I told him he should be a man. It's like, honey, you told our son to do that. Okay. Yeah, he's having an emotional breakdown right now. You did not help. You've lost your dad privileges for at least a month. And I was just like, oh, we're not doing this trope. We're making fun of this trope. Cool. Because like there's always that trope of like the wimpy kid, be a man, turn into a monster thing in a lot of monster movies. And I love how the mom, like this time the advice isn't like, this isn't like, yeah, you should really be alone with that, honey. Stand up for yourself. It's like, honey, be what you need to. Also, your dad's a moron. Sometimes he doesn't think what he's saying. I just laughed when I heard that. Like, you losing your dad privileges for a month. It's like, that's fair. That's fair. The mom and dad end up rightfully running away when they see that their son is turned into a hulking, brutal monster. Tasha ends up having to save them. Everything goes down. You get to see a few interesting monsters, though, too, while we're there. So there's an invisible one who's only able to be seen in mirrors. He kills you, but he can only move when you're not looking at him. So when you can't see him, he can move. Basically, pseudo... God, what's it called? SCP-650. It's the Starling statue. It's okay, for those of you who don't know what SCP is, it's a online creepypasta kind of thing. But that's a grossly inaccurate description. I apologize to other SCP fans. But the whole thing is it kills you if you stop looking at it. And this monster is kind of like, sort of like that. So if you're looking at it in a mirror, it can't move. But if you're not looking at it in a mirror, it's invisible and it can still move around and it will kill you. That thing is played to really creepy effect. I like how I had to kind of figure out the rules for it too. Like, they don't outright tell you what the rules are. She just kind of slowly realizes what the rules are and starts working through it. Tasha comes out as very resourceful when she has to face the thing, while Carrie's being indisposed because of the whole occult business. And Nolan's, slowly going a little mad. They also deal with the hypnotist, who's really creepy. I think it's the only problem I have with it is I think the tongue was CGI. I'm not sure if it was or not. It looked kind of CGI-ish. It wasn't great. But the rest of the effects are amazing, aside from that one little tongue. These are all very practical effects. I really like them. Let's see, what else? So we had the Brute, you had the Hypnotist, there was the Echo, but that's the thing that's kind of like, starting to make everybody go insane. And that was basically it. There were only like 4 monsters in this, actually. Wow. Huh. You see a lot of other monsters like in the world. Oh, another thing. They're leaning into a lot more of a religious theme with the evil monster and stuff. So, in this one, they're calling the Plains of Torment Gehenna, which, very simplifying, is biblical-ish adjacent hell. Another word for hell sometimes. It depends on who you ask. The only reason I know this is because mythology is a passion of mine. Christianity is exhausting. Ugh. Anyway. Let's see, what else? Pretty spectacle effects. I talked about the actors. Yeah, can't really think of anything. I mean, Crypt TV is pretty good at this. All the scary moments are very scary. The cult leader. Oh, God, what was his name? Her dad, whatever her dad's name was. I genuinely can't remember. He is an a-hole. Like, he has this, like, moment where he's like, his daughter's gonna try and find a way to destroy the portal, and he's like, oh, honey, just let it go. The portal will go off, we'll seal it up once the monsters take over the town, we'll go in and purge it and everything like that. Deal with it on our own time. You'll be a hero. And it's like, oh, wow, he really doesn't give a shit about the rest of the town. He just wants to stop this world from being overrun. He doesn't really give a shit about anyone outside the cult. And the cult itself is, like, super hardcore. Like, it's beating the children until they don't flinch anymore with rods. Like, those martial arts training, but to children. Yeah. And, the things that, like, it was just, like, constant, like, pain will make you strong. And I'm like, okay, wow, we're going full on the brainwashing here. The ending. So, the ending of the series has, them destroy. So, Carrie had to swallow one of the worm things to gain the powers of the monsters in order to close the gate, because only one of the blood herd, that's what the monsters are called in this one, can close the gate. So she manages to close it, but she passes out. And when she wakes up, she's back in the cult, being praised as a hero, full on, like, walking to the light stuff. It's really, like, it's like really like, yes, we are a cult. And it's like, okay. And then it's like, now you just have to prove your loyalty. And, they haul out her 2 friends who they found, and they're like, kill them. They deserve it. No one can learn of our secrets. And Carrie plays along with them. At first it looks like she's really kind of turned on, but you've seen her growth throughout this whole series, and she really cares about both Tasha and Nolan. And you can interpret these things as far as you want, but they, Tasha and her did kiss, so. Anyway. So she decides that she has to save them, but she knows if she refuses, somebody else will just kill them and she will have no power to help them. So she manages to convince, her dad that they deserve to suffer like I suffered, throw them into Gehenna. Because she knows, because when she went to retrieve the book from Gehenna earlier on, that her old sort of flame, sort of friend, childhood, I betrayed you, Sarah, is the one in there guarding it now. And she kind of sort of made up with her, or at least they settled some old damages, so she trusts Sarah a bit more than she trusts the rest of the cult. So after Nolan and Tasha are sent in there, she uses a secret sign. Basically, her and Tasha would, like, touch their arms, and the other one would touch their heart to show that they're still friends. It was their secret method of communicating everything will be alright, or I need help. And she gives the signal, and Tasha and Sarah reply. So it's implied that Sarah is going to keep Nolan and Tasha safe inside Gehenna, while Carrie works on getting them free and escaping the cult with them. Which is interesting. I'm very much looking forward to that. But then, right before the credits, we get a final plot twist as black veins creep up Carrie's neck. And it's like, oh right, she still has the worm in her! She's still infected! She's gonna turn into a monster! That's interesting. So, after doing all this, I would like to point out 1 or 2 negative things I have. I'm kind of not into the worms being responsible for all the monsters. Like, so it's revealed early on, after they kill the first monster, that a body is found. It's supposed to be a person who went missing years ago. And then they kill another monster, and the mirror monster, the one that only moves when it's not seen in the mirrors, and a worm crawls out of it after it dies and it turns into a human. And they realize these worms come from the demon's bone. Carrie always knew the demon's bone could infect people. She just didn't know how until the worms. And I'm not okay with that. Like, see, one of the things that was really cool about Crypt's universe was they had a lot of ways monsters to do this. They could come on the torment plane. They could be created from energy from the plane, like the Spider-Woman thing, the creepy old-fashioned spider lady who thought everyone needs to apply to their old social roles. I forget her name. I forget the name of that series off the top of my head. And then they could also be created through magic rituals, through blood sacrifices. I liked that. It was very diverse. It was a very subtle magic thing. I don't like how everything's linked back to Gehenna and the worms. Like, I just don't like the worms, okay? I think it's a dumb way to infect people. I think it limits what they can do as a potential expanded universe thing. Like, you could still have torment shards. You could just have torment shards be it. People could still want it. Maybe it could be gold instead of purple this time. It could shimmer. Maybe not glow as much. That would be fine. I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of the worms. I think it was just alright. Like, I do like the idea of maybe them still being people deep down, but, like, I don't know. I just enjoyed Crypt TV's other methods. I thought it was a little bit more interesting. That's just a personal thing. It's really the only downside I have here. The cast is great all around. The plot is amazing. I mean, it sets up a lot of interesting things. The characters have a lot of a lot of growth throughout the series. Like, Carrie goes from being this, like, shell-shocked survivor who still kind of thinks the outside world is cruel, decadent, and careless. She, to the point where she gets upset that Tasha posted a video of her dancing onto the internet because it's like, you shared something private with everyone. Because, to her, that's like a horrible betrayal. But Tasha didn't even really realize it was at the time. Like, she thought, it was like, oh, she might, she didn't really like the idea, but I'm sure it's fine. Luckily, they're both reasonable people, and they get over it quickly. They talk it out, and they're like, okay, I'm really sorry about that, but we also have monsters to deal with, and our friend is kind of turning into a monster, so can we shelve this issue? Okay, we can shelve this issue, but I am still mad at you. And, they're friends. They get over it. Carrie comes out of her shell a lot. Tasha shows how caring she can be. Nolan really gets across how, confused and just how difficult a transition this is for him. I'm very interested to see where he turns out. This is going to be a fun ride, honestly, on all three. The whole cast has great chemistry, though. Like, three of them are like, I'm definitely looking at them, it's like, yeah, I can totally buy that you guys are, like, really close friends, despite two of you having known each other for a while, and the third member only going in, like, a few weeks ago. It's like, yeah, no, they've been through a lot together. I also love how when they're first hunting the monster, Carrie, is convincing them to take her out into the woods, and when she goes charging at the monster and it vanishes, she runs into them, and they're like, you're holding a blade in your arm, and we didn't see anything. But when Nolan's family starts going missing because the hypnotist is starting to feed on their blood and, use them as, like, human cattle, he's like, okay, my family is vanishing, and some really weird stuff is coming on. Carrie might have had some point to this. What do we do? And they all come off as resourceful. They all have their moments to shine. Really love the cast. Really love the series. Can't wait to see what Peacock can do with the rest of Crypt's library. So, it's going to be a busy week. I've been working on a lot of stuff. So I'm really going to try and get that YouTube videos out. Don't worry, I will be releasing it most likely not by this Friday. I was planning to, but I'm not going to have it done by then. I'm going to try and get it by next Tuesday. Sorry for the delay. It's just been a chaotic week. I'm actually be starting new jobs pretty soon. I've been working on a few other projects that I started before I even started this podcast. So, busy. Anyway, on Thursday, I'm going to see the new Ghostbusters movie. Looks alright. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just not a huge Ghostbusters fan. Like, I like the first movie. It's okay. It's a good movie. It's a good comedy. Good, horror comedy movie. I'm just not sure I really care that much about a sequel. Fun fact though, I actually am going to go see two movies that night because they're doing a showing of Castle in the Sky. And I've actually never seen it before, so I might be reviewing that sometime in the future. Look for that. But yeah, Studio Ghibli movies are great. Who knew? I love Spirited Away as a kid. Kind of creeped me out a little bit, but I definitely love the movie. Saw it on like Cartoon Network one time. Or Toonami back when that was the thing, I guess. So yeah, look for that in the future, and I should be getting my copy of the new Diamond and Pearl remakes anytime now, so looking forward to that. I will be doing a stream of my Nuzlocke for that game once I get the YouTube channel up and running, so be on the lookout for that, and that's about it. See you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.